evening, everyone. My name is Nicholas. I'm a part-time thrifter. I buy and sell online and Amazon Link for profit. Today's video is quite actually a selfish-made video. I contacted my accountant, and basically the query was what things I need to do before I can actually start selling in Europe with Amazon. And they said, well, how about we actually do a one-to-one meeting and we can actually discuss it. And this is something that anyone could actually do. The only difference is that I've actually recorded it also for YouTube too. And I had some pre-planned questions, really questions that I had for my business, and I'm really happy because at the end of it I now know what things I need to do in order to be able to actually sell on Amazon, and what it actually entails in regards to taxation and selling on Amazon. So without further ado, I'm going to start straight away with a conversation with me and Timur from OSOME. It's probably the most selfish video I've actually ever made. It's for me to find out how to actually sell in Europe. So if you want to introduce yourself first of all, and if you want to talk about a bit OSOME too to begin with.
Yes, so my name is Taimur Ghafoor. I'm an accountant. I work for a company called OSOME. Now, OSOME is an online fintech e-commerce accountant specialist, and what they do is produce an ecosystem where once you become a client, you get one place for all of your e-commerce accounting and bookkeeping solutions, basically. So if you're selling in UK, all of your taxes, your bookkeeping, your personal tax is taken care of. Now you want to expand to EU, like you mentioned, we will take care of that. If you want to expand to US, we will take care of it. We'll introduce you to different partners. We produce this ecosystem where we take care of all of your financial affairs. You just need to make sure that you make those good business decisions and the finances work in your favor. And the way we do it is through automations and through AI. So we've created these systems and technologies, app that talk to each other. So if you're on Amazon, if you're on Shopify, whenever you make a sale, your sale will be automatically updated on your accounting platform. You don't have to specifically do anything extra. Your purchases are done much easier as well. So creating this ecosystem, this whole automation and streamlining the whole process is what OSOME does. And my job here is to make sure that is accurate, and the knowledge base is there to help the system as well.
No, that's brilliant. I mean, I've been with you guys now for nearly, I think, a month and a half too. And as you said, I think it's this kind of automation, basically. Like, I plot my receipt and everything is done for me. I don't actually get by the way, what's this for? What's this for? What's this for? It's just this makes massive difference. It's the freedom of time, and it took a while for me to actually take the plunge. For me, the biggest plunge was actually like moving to a limited company, and that's why I thought I've got to actually switch to an accountant. So it did take a while. I did actually try to do it for 2 years myself, but I'm not gonna lie, it was scary. Like when trying to actually do it, you're thinking, what have I done right? What have I done wrong for it? And it was a big chunk of my time being taken to actually read up and do everything for us. So like, if from your experience, again, having different customers and everything, when would you actually say is the best time for someone to actually consider actually using a bookkeeping and accounting, really, in a professional level? When do you think is the best time?
Well, look, I think there's a bit of a misunderstanding in clients and appreciation on accountants, right? What normally people think is that an accountant is just to go to get your books filed, get your books in order, and get your taxes done. The accountant can be a lot more, especially in this day and age where the technology has advanced so much. So I'm going to talk about two elements, financial and value added, right? So if you just talk about the money itself, if you are trading for a whole year, you need an accountant to finalize your books and submit accounts. If you go to an accountant to the very last minute, like a few weeks before your deadlines, they're going to charge you premium to do the last 12 months worth of work in one go. They will charge you premium to give you those last minute adjustments and do all of the books and handling all of your receipts. Whereas if you go to someone from day one, then they will charge you monthly fees, and your books will be done on spot as well. And the second element, they won't charge you that premium. They will charge you your regular fees, right? And the second element on that, as I said, the value out of it. So if you go to an accountant at the last minute, you will only get last minute advice. Where if you have an accountant from day one, they're there for you as a partner. You can get consultations with them. You can ask them different questions. people like us, e-commerce specialists, you can come to us and ask, how do I continue trading in EU and all of that. And plus your books are up to date, which means you can see your figures, you can see your numbers, and you can make decisions. You can see how much your gross profit is. Is it fluctuating a lot? Do you need a new supplier? To get all of this information, you need to work on your books. And if there's someone working already for you, all you need to do is just decide, because the numbers have worked for you. So what I would say is, if you have just recently started, you don't need to get an accountant straight away. Just see how the business is going, if you're going to make any money, or if this idea of yours is going to actually, become an actual deal. And at that stage, when you think, yes, it is a real deal, get an accountant, get someone on board and help you with the whole thing.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. I think it's the scariest thing for people is like, oh, I've not even started making money and I'm actually making expenses by having an accountant. I think that's what scares people. But as you said, like in the long run, it is actually better, because it's not as if they're actually not going to get the fee for the year. If you go to an accountant at the end of the year, that premium is pretty much the fee for the whole year without the advice, isn't it? That's the big thing. Is It's like you've got the big fee, but you've not got the advice throughout the year. And like,
just to add a little on it, I think last week I did a webinar where there were quite a few questions coming in, and two questions were, I'm getting some penalties charges from HMRC. What am I supposed to do? And another individual asked the same question. I have only made expenses. I have not made any sales. Am I supposed to do anything? Yes, regardless of you making no sales or not, if you're making all of those expenses, you need to put them as losses, so you can carry them next year and reduce your sales next year. And you need to do all of your submissions to avoid estimations and penalties. So this understanding, that you only need an accountant when you make a sale is not accurate, because even if you make expenses and losses, you still need someone to file your returns and obviously gain benefit out of it.
Yeah, from the moment, like basically you have declared with the HMRC as self-employed or as a limited company, you've got to actually present paperwork. It's not basically like, oh, I've decided I'm going to open self-employed, I'm going to open an Amazon account, and a month after I decided not to do it. But you still have to do your self-assessment. You still have to actually declare something, otherwise they'll come knocking. And that's a big thing. A lot of people actually think they can actually just apply for the HMRC, get a UTI number, do 1 month at Amazon, and I didn't make money, so therefore I can just leave it. And then next thing you know, it might not be next year, it might be in 2 years' time, but there will come in it. There's a discrepancy that's got to actually be solved by HMRC, which is a big thing for me. Like obviously I went through the route of doing it myself, but I still had some software for us. It was very much an easy business in and out, but once you're actually scaling, and even from the first 2 months, I'm pulling my hair thinking, I could have saved so much money speaking to you guys, because there's so much things that I've actually are expenses and are actually tax deductible that for the last 2 years I wasn't actually doing, and thinking I was being clever and doing everything myself. But in the long run, I'm actually costing myself money and time, which is so valuable in the long run, really, for this business. So yeah, even from the first 2 months, because it is as simple. Not everything needs to be a phone call. It is as simple as basically send a text message. What do I do? And that's one of the biggest things on the platform, that you can send a message, and you can send a message at 11 o'clock at night, because you've remembered at 11 o'clock at night. You might not get the answer at 11 o'clock at night, but you know that someone's going to read it.
Someone's going to read it.
Yeah, for me, that's made a massive difference, the way I'm running the business, because obviously I'm doing this part-time, and I've also got my teaching job on a full-time too. So a lot of the time when I'm doing everything, my brain, I'll go to sleep at 8 o'clock. So I try it now. Let's be honest, I'm trying to go to sleep at like 10:30. My brain actually, and then my brain starts working, thinking, oh, right, I need to do this, I need to do that. How can I actually sort this? And obviously that's what it is. It's the message. Like I've messaged last week about EU, and next thing I know, we've got this call now organized, and I can actually sort it out. And this call isn't something that it's because of YouTube. If a client wanted a call, they could actually arrange a call with an accountant. It isn't just because I'm on YouTube.
No, definitely. I normally have these conversations with the clients as well over the Zoom, so it's very common practice for us.
Yeah, and it just makes it's nice to know how the business is running. And I think I'm actually going to be taking. I think there's an option also for Awesome to give a view of your profits and everything for the month too, like quite in-depth analysis of that. So I think I'm actually going to be getting that option too, and seeing how the business is running, because obviously being the first 2 months as a limited company, see basically if there's any leaks or if there's anything I can actually fix or do better, really. For us. So obviously, I think the biggest thing, I know I've done this decision, I've gone with Awesome, and I think you've touched a bit on it, talking about AI, but what is the main difference? Okay, so having Awesome as your accountant, okay, why Awesome instead of anyone else? Why not go to local high street and get an accountant?
Well, look, still, there's a lot of traditional accountants who are really good. They are technical, they're qualified, they know what they're doing, but they don't know very specific about e-commerce. And e-commerce is a very big industry with a lot of complications. Just to give you some idea, like on 1st of January 2021, HMRC and the UK government sat down and introduced a lot of new rules just focusing on e-commerce. 1st of July 2021, EU has introduced tons of new rules just focusing on e-commerce. So you can see that at government level, there's so much focus on going into e-commerce, because e-commerce is, is the next new thing. And not everyone has gotten themselves familiarized with them. So you will get an accountant who's great at, retail stores or constructions, but they're not great at e-commerce, because for that you need to know the latest understanding of all of the new rules. And that's where the accountants like myself and experts like e-commerce are coming in, saying that we have done our understanding, we have done our research, now it's time to share that information with you so you can continue your business. And plus, the technology that we are making is all based around e-commerce. And that's why when you make a sale, even if you make a sale in Europe, everything will be automatically calculated. Your VAT will be calculated on what you need to be declared in Europe and then submitted in Europe as well. So rather than traditional accountants and asking you at the end of each month or year end, asking you send us a box of all the invoices and go through your sales return, asking you tons of questions, we are taking in charge of that part and asking you to just focus on your business. So the e-commerce expert, the technology behind it, and the consultations and stuff, you've seen yourself. If a client comes to us and asks us, how to do EU business, we give them the guidelines. Where if you go to someone else, they will probably charge you hourly consultations rate and stuff like that. So that's why the ecosystem we've made at Awesome is relative to e-commerce. And if you're e-commerce, then that's the best place for you.
Well, that's it. I think you hit the nail in the head there with that, really, to be honest. For us, you need somebody who's a specialist on this case, because there's so many different things, and what have you said? Twice it's changed since this year already, the rules for us. And I think you've touched a bit on it, but let's go straight away talking about the EU, really, for us. Okay, so what was the big change that actually, from people selling in the EU to selling to the EU after Brexit? What is the big change between them?
So two changes. The first change came on 1st of January when the Brexit finally had the final go. So from that day onwards, there's a big line between UK and EU. So from then on, obviously, before that, if you had any sales from any of your EU consumer, you will receive the payments and just send the goods, arrange a shipment, send the goods. If you're on Amazon, you could have used your Amazon FBA or EU PAN system to just simply arrange, and Amazon would have taken care of everything. From 1st of January, now there is a border. Anytime your products crosses a border, there will be an import VAT and custom charges on it. And regardless of which direction, there will be extra payments to be paid. So that needed to be considered first, and you needed to understand how that actually works and how much it's going to actually cost you. Just to give you some reference, the first month of January, at the end of January, there was a report saying that 30% of the goods that were sent to Europe came back because consumer did not appreciate that they had to pay extra import VAT and custom declaration at their houses. And UK retailers decided to actually burn those goods rather than getting them back. As I said, even crossing the border back again, you would have to pay the extra import VAT and customs. So the border was a big deal. So that was the first big change. Then from 1st of July, to make things easier and more accessible and be more competitive, they issued a lot more new rules, and those rules are called IOSS, Import One-Stop Shop, OSS, One-Stop Shop, and Special Arrangements, and they got a few other bits, small bits and bobs. But these are the three main things that have been introduced, and for different type of e-commerce business, you can go into one of those and then start selling in Europe. Again, still remember there's a border there, but just to give you some context, before 1st of July, any goods coming into the Euro for 22 euro or less did not have any VAT implication. It used to be called low consignment value. So if your goods or the things that you were sending to Europe was less than 22 euro, you could have just sent it without any further implication to it. From 1st of July, that's gone. From €1 that you send to Europe, you now there will be implication of import VAT and customs. So nothing is free anymore. There's no threshold. So in replacement of that, what they've introduced is IOSS, and what that means is that if your customer bought something from Europe and the total value of that consignment is €150, you can send it to Europe under your IOSS number and then declare VAT through that number. So in very simple terms, for a UK business owner, what it looks like is if you're storing goods in the UK and you only sell them as and when you receive an order, and your orders are always less than €150, register yourself for IOSS in any of the European countries. And then whenever you receive an order, just use the IOSS number and send your goods there. That's for if you use your own shops. If you're under Amazon, things are a lot more easier for you now as well. If your goods are less than €150, then you will use Amazon's IOSS number and send your goods there. You don't need to do anything extra.
Right.
The condition is it needs to be less than €150. If it's more than €150, I've heard Amazon will not accept that order.
So is it the total order, or is it just the one good? It needs to be 150.
Total order.
Total order.
There could be 10 goods inside it, or one good. It's the shipment, the consignment value, the value of the box that you're sending to Europe. So that's the first rule, IOSS. But again, it's only applicable for businesses who are storing their goods in the UK and sending it to Europe when they make a sale. And within that, there are two conditions. If you're on a marketplace like Amazon, eBay, you will use their IOSS number. If you're doing on your own, then you have to register for IOSS yourself. The second rule is OSS, one-stop shop, which is for people who are storing goods in Europe, and if they want to use Amazon FBA of Europe, right? So what you will do is you will select one of the countries in Europe. So for example, Germany, because they use English, they have a really good infrastructure. You will send your bulk of goods there, and then you will register for Germany's local VAT registration. Before 1st of July, the rule after this was that you had distance selling threshold, which meant from Germany, if you sent to any of the other European country, you had limits. And as soon as you cross that limit, you had to register for that country as well. Right. So for example, if you're in Germany, you're selling in France, if you reached their distance selling threshold, which was about 30,000 to 100,000, and if you sell more than that in a year, you now need to register in France as well for VAT.
So that's 19% in Germany and 20% also in France.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. No, but you're charging VAT regardless. I'm talking about the actual practicality of VAT registration requirements. So the new rule from 1st of July is that you can keep your goods in Germany, and if you want to sell from that goods to the rest of the Europe, you can register for OSS, and OSS will cover everything for you. So you can sell unlimited amount of goods to unlimited EU countries without having to register for any other European country. So they've reduced the number of registration you need to do in different countries. Again, the rule with this is quite similar. If you're using Amazon, eBay, or any of those marketplaces, then you don't need OSS. You just use their OSS number. If you're not, you're on Shopify or your own website, then you need to register for OSS. I've thrown a lot of information out there.
It makes sense. It makes sense. Obviously, you've got your two ways to actually sell to Europe. You've got your IOSS and one-stop SS. So basically, the iOS is for storing in the UK. Yeah, storing in UK, and especially if you're Amazon or on eBay, using on that platform, you use their IOSS number, you can actually sell items like that. Or the second option is storing items in a different country and then use a one-stop shop. Yeah, correct.
Definitely.
Perfect. And then,
That's what it is. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, just make sure whenever you store a good in any of the European countries in a storeroom, you need to register for that countries, because you cannot store goods in Europe, being not a local European business. So you have to select one of the countries and use the fulfillment center to cover rest of the Europe.
If we're using the IOSS shop, so is that international one-stop shop? Is that what it is? Is that what it means?
Import one-stop shop.
Right. So would I need to register for VAT for the other countries too, or not?
No, no. So again, distinction between those two. So if you're on a marketplace, you don't need to register at all. You use the IOSSs, but if you are your own, then you just register in one of the European countries, and you can select any European countries.
Yeah.
Register there for IOSS and use that IOSS to cover the whole Europe, basically. So you just need one number for the whole Europe.
Perfect. That makes sense. And is that something? So what entails? So say if you actually do sell, say in Europe, yeah, and I imagine is that a lot more paperwork also that needs to be done too?
No, everything is now automated. You for iOS, one condition is that you need a local representation. So, for example, if you decide Germany for whatever reason, they speak English, and the website is in English as well. So you decide to register yourself for iOS in Germany. You need a local German accountant to register you first of all, and then declare your IOSS every month. So what will happen is on your website there will be an option for you to charge VAT for any country that you sell in. So if you're selling in France, then you will charge France VAT. If you're selling in Italy, you will charge Italy's VAT.
Yeah.
The online system that we have created will collect all of that information, and every month submit the VAT return to the local authorities. Now, again, in terms of finding someone local, we have our local accountants in every part of the Europe. So you decide which country you want, and we can tell you if we can register you there for IOSS or not. But yeah, the rules are quite simple. It's not much paperwork because everything is now automated.
No, that's brilliant. Like obviously, because you wouldn't know where to begin. Like for me, it was just like I did actually have a brief look over the weekend, like selling in the EU, and the biggest thing is like, well, as soon as you sell in the EU, you need to register VAT for all the countries, and I'm like, right, but how do you do all that? Kind of cases. So it's quite nice to know that obviously you can actually help us out with all this process, and it's not just basically like this is the way to do it and that's it, but you can actually provide a solution, not just this is the way. Also provide a solution, which for me obviously that's the next step now, like going and trying to grow the business as much as possible, because obviously I mean I imagine you have a lot of clients that actually sell in the EU too, correct?
We do.
Yeah. And why would you say, like, obviously I know what it is, but what would you say, why did they make that big jump from just UK to EU?
Like, it's the market, it's the reach that you can get out of it. Like UK is great. UK is one of the big e-commerce markets as well, but one of the biggest market, which is tenfold, is US. US has a huge market, but again, US has a big competition as well. Almost everyone is doing e-commerce there, and the rest of the world is selling in US as well. With UK and EU, the opportunity is, the market is big, and everyone is now concentrating on e-commerce, and it's probably one of those times where you get in time, and be one of the early guys to make that difference, rather than going to a few years later when it's already become too competitive. So just confining yourself to UK is not a good growth idea. You need to touch into the EU market.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that's the thing. Like, and a lot of the times when I go and look at the forums, is like, make sure you put all the EU shops into holiday mode, and you don't want to sell anything to the EU. It's clearly because you just don't want to make any mistakes. But I think having someone to actually guide me through that, I think that's the next step for me. Just selling in the EU, especially with coming into quarter 4. Really, I should be able to actually take full advantage of that situation. So I'm actually really looking forward to that, because it seems fairly straightforward for me. I don't need to do anything other than just contact you guys, and register really for the number for us. So I'm really looking forward to that, really.
Definitely.
For us. Let's see what we got. I mean, I'm just happy actually. I'm that happy because like this is what I wanted from this call, really, for me to actually find out what entails with selling in the EU. So it's quite nice for us. Even if I wanted to do the first step, keeping everything in the UK and selling, I can still do that. And I know that you can actually look after all paperwork, basically, which I'm not good at doing myself.
Definitely.
Right. So you how long have you been working with OSOME now?
Me personally, I joined OSOME March 2020. Yeah. So
what would you
a
say,
year and a
like
half.
a year and a half? So what would you say is the most common mistakes that you actually see in a year and a half of doing it?
I think as we are growing, the level of mistakes is getting higher as well. Not in quantity, but in terms of the quality of errors. Basically, when I initially started, it was common mistakes like people not recording sales properly, people recording the money coming into the bank account as sales. Those kind of very common e-commerce mistakes. But at this stage, where I'm involved in more complex businesses, what I see is Amazon arbitrage base, for example. It's one of the places where clients make a lot of mistakes in terms of their inventory. So for example, your Amazon arbitrage, you've been making sales and all of a sudden now you reached 85K, you need to register for VAT, right? When you register for VAT, one of the common issues is that people just think that from now on I will charge VAT and anything I buy, I will start claiming VAT on it as well. But on the date of your effective VAT registration date, you can actually claim back any stock that you have left with you so that you still haven't sold, right? And that could be a big chunk because Amazon arbitrage buy tons a lot of stuff. A lot of people know that you can actually claim your historic purchases VAT as well if you have still got those items in stock. Okay, I've told this information to the clients. The next problem is that clients have never kept any record of their inventory of what they have left and those invoices. Because imagine you buy 2 months ago you bought 100 items from 10 different places, and you got 10 different invoices with you. Now coming to the VAT registration date, which of those 100 items do you still have in stock, which you have sold, how much VAT on it as well? There's a whole calculation behind it, and there's a whole level of understanding that you need to know to be able to claim that. So that's one of the common mistake I see that people don't take care of and lose a bit of money on it. 20% of your purchases could be, well,
20% of 100 quid, isn't it? Just look about 20% of 100 quid, and how much are we spending? That 100 quid is a normal trip into a shop for an RA trip. So 20% of that is quite a lot of money. Really to be thinking about it like that, and yeah, really that makes sense. And I think for me, I think the biggest light bulb moment was, and luckily I saw Christos Fella's video talking about you guys, and it was talking how basically your cost of goods is only after you've actually sold the item, not just basically not after you bought it. For me, that was actually the biggest thing. I was like, oh wow, I've been doing this wrong. That was the biggest moment for me. Would you recommend for anyone actually watching this today, say for example, would you recommend for them to start straight away selling in the EU, or do a year, say for example, just selling in the UK if they were doing Amazon, or just starting the business?
Look, if you're just starting, this is from personal experience. If you're just starting, it's not. It's easy because of people like you, Christos, who are showing it how it's done. But actually, when you're practically doing it, there's a lot of roadblocks, and you need to conquer them. You need to understand them fully, before you actually start selling. So at the start in UK, understand the whole thing, how it works, how the analytical tools work. And then once you have, even if you haven't made sales, but you understand how it works, then jump into the Europe, because Europe can be an expensive. It's very lucrative, but it's expensive. And initially you don't want to be demotivated with all of those rules and stuff. So start small. As soon as you've got a good grip, go to EU straight away.
Yeah, because I think from what I read too, like this, and I think as you said too, from the first pound, there's no VAT threshold here. Is it 85,000 off the top of my head? Yeah. But in the EU, there's no VAT threshold, isn't it? It's just basically from your first straight away. So really everything is like VAT cost on top of it, which is a big difference for us. One other term that when I was actually looking, so EORI, that's one of the other things that actually popped up. So first of all, like, what was it? And do I need both that and a VAT number to import to the EU?
Yeah, so from 1st of January, when all the new rules were introduced, you needed an EORI number to import any goods to Europe. So you had your VAT registration number for the country that you register yourself in, plus the EORI number to do customs. But from 1st of July, that has changed. Now you have IOSS, OSS, and EORI number. So for example, if you're selling goods from UK stock to Europe, for goods less than 150, you will use IOSS number. For goods more than 150, you will use EORI number.
Right.
So yeah, so the number is still there. It's just that you depending on what type of sale you
depending
make,
depending on how you want to run your business, on it. And I imagine, like, obviously, I think you said was that 30% of the items were actually returned back to us because obviously the customers didn't want to actually pay it. And I take it we take everything on board, isn't it? Correct. The VAT is the seller that actually is going to be taking everything on board, not the customer. So that makes sense, actually. Right. So anything over, there's still a way of selling it, but obviously you are paying. You've got to have that EORI number. I don't even know what that means. I can't even say it properly. Right, I've got another one. Okay, may as well be doing this video. Okay, we've talked about massive market in Europe. I think a nice way to actually finish off is actually with touching a bit of what the market would be in the US. I think you talked about it, how big it actually is. So it says, if someone were to start selling on Amazon today, would you recommend they start in the US or Europe based on their accounting and fiscal obligations? So ignore UK. If you had somebody that had the option of selling just in Europe or selling in the US, what would be the bigger difference between them two?
Look, in terms of admin and paperwork, US is the most easiest market to get into because they have something called sales tax, and majority of the marketplaces take care of it. So your Amazon, your eBay will probably take care of majority of your. You will just have to pay the extra or charge your customers extra, but they take care of it. Every state has their sort of rules on how it's done. They have thresholds, so as long as you're not reaching above the thresholds, you're okay. But when you do reach above the thresholds, you're probably capable enough business to start storing goods in the US and start registering for sales tax there as well. Europe, we've just discussed how it actually works and how it's going to be in terms of paperwork. It's slightly more paper hectic than US. US is definitely one of the biggest market, and it's a lot bigger than combined UK and EU. You can get a lot of the market shares if you actually have a really good product and you think you can do a good marketing there as well. But again, for me, this is coming from personal experience as well, that if you're just starting and e-commerce, you're just starting on e-commerce, it's very different to a traditional, buying and selling businesses. So first, get your hands dirty in local market, see how it actually works, and then jump onto the big markets like US and EU. But in terms of paperwork, I just mentioned, it's not that difficult.
I'm really surprised with that. I generally thought it'd be a lot of hoops, like obviously because I think you mentioned it, like obviously different states. I just assumed that everything would be different because I know taxation is different in every state there, but if it's done automatically depending to that, I think that's quite interesting. I think that's
there is apart from tax and paperwork implications, there are other complications. Like for Amazon, you need to have a local bank account in US. Yes. And opening that bank account can be a bit hectic, but there are other services that are providing that online. So yeah, as I said, it's not just the tax and accounting. There are quite a few other implications and restrictions that you need to be careful of.
Like obviously, like I'm doing Amazon for the long run, so I think for me, that would be maybe something to think of the next 2-3 years. I think it would be very nice to actually do 2 years of doing EU and actually selling a different market. Because before Brexit started, I did actually have a few sales and for items that definitely I wouldn't be selling over in the UK. So I'm looking forward to actually back jumping on that and actually see hopefully the sales actually going further and getting better really for us and growing. And it just is nice, like obviously having this conversation with you and knowing that you actually can actually provide all the support for me to actually simply buy and sell, and you can actually control everything else. Like, so I'm really, really pleased. Like, I'm really happy we actually had this conversation, as selfish as it was. I'm really
Definitely.
actually happy with this, because that means that for me, looking to October, November, I'm hoping to actually have my first few sales actually on Amazon EU. So I'm really, really pleased with that. And for
Sure,
me, just
sure.
to say a massive thank you to actually joining us today. I know it's like during your work day. It's an afternoon. It's 1 o'clock, and I really, really appreciate the time today for this.
No, I appreciate you having me on board, and again, happy to help. If anyone watching this video, or you yourself have any more questions, please feel free to just write to me, and I'll be more than happy to help. I've done months and months of research on this whole Brexit, EU, and the COVID as well. All of those grants and stuff, and it's if it's now being usable and helping people, then definitely up for it.
No, that's brilliant. So thank you so much. Really, I'm looking forward to actually scaling the business even more with you guys. So thanks so much for every advice, and I'll let you be. I'll let you enjoy your day. Thank you very much, Steven. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Have a
Cheers.
good time.
Bye.
Right, guys, so hopefully you actually enjoyed this. So as mentioned, okay, Timur was actually one of the accountants from OSOME. OSOME are my e-commerce specialist accountants that I've been using for the last 2 months. And if anyone's actually interested on having an e-commerce specialist accountant, then I've got the link below in the description where you can actually contact them for a call to actually find out if they're right for you or not. And then also, if you actually click the link below or actually mention my name, you actually get 100 quid off your first month of actually using OSOME as your service. So thanks so much for watching, everyone. Hopefully it has been quite beneficial for you. For me, I know it will actually change the way I'm running my business. And as always, keep thrifting.